Out, as always, with our invocation. So Joe Carwell will present our invocation.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, tonight on the table... Pardon?
He wants to stand?
Pardon?
Should we stand?
Not yet. No, thank you. No, please be seated. Please be seated. Yeah, you can sit in church. You can sit here too. So. Well, that's not loud. We just speak up if we catch you sleeping. Okay, the July-August edition of Hillsdale College's In Primis. Some of you have already seen it or received it. If you haven't, pick one of the chits off the table and you can read it online and even subscribe. It's free. And they ask for a donation if you try to sign up. Don't worry about that. Send them $5 if you want to, but if you don't want to, forget it. They'll send you In Primis anyway. This issue focuses on the idea of diversity. And I'm particularly focusing this evening on the latter part of this issue of imprimis. It's the birthright citizenship question. As you know, any legal or illegal woman giving birth in the USA gives citizenship to her child, or at least they received citizenship. Experts tell us the Constitution adopted the English common law of birthright citizenship. They cite William Blackstone as the authority for this idea. He wrote an authoritative set of books called The Commentaries on the Law of England. And those volumes were very well known to our nation's founders. So they knew what he was saying. Our citizenship supporters ignore that these 4 volumes, he always refers to birthright subjects and birthright subjectship, never mentioning citizens or citizenship. Blackstone freely admitted that birthright subjectship came from the feudal system, which defined the relations of master and servant, slave if you prefer. Under English common law, there were no citizens, only subjects. James Wilson, a signer of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, said, "In America, there are citizens, but no subjects." Is it remotely possible that our founding fathers, after fighting and winning a long Revolutionary War, to reject the feudal relic of perpetual allegiance to a king, would adopt the very same feudal relic as the foundation for American citizenship? Makes no sense at all, and I doubt it sincerely. Putting America first is a rational goal. It's the essence of sovereignty, and the sovereign nation state is the only home of citizenship, as it is the only home of constitutional government. Will you bow with me, please? Dear Lord God, pour your blessing on the humble work we citizens do to protect the Constitution of the United States from all those who fail to see its wisdom. This I ask in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, now can I ask all the veterans in the room to please stand so we can recognize you? Thank you very much for your service. You can remain standing, and the rest of us will join you, and we will do our Pledge of Allegiance. And Larry Mertz, would you mind leading us in our pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so I'm going to deviate from our agenda slightly, because right off the bat, I would like to welcome David Cushman, who is here. He is a representative of the John Cox campaign, and he would like to share with us some information about John Cox's campaign and tell us the scoop.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is David Cushman. I am the statewide volunteer coordinator for John Cox, and I have one question. Are you ready for Republican governor in 2018? Yeah. Great. I know I am, and I know all of you are as well. So I'm here. This is my first time here. I'm so glad to be here with all of you tonight. I live in Manteca. I drove up here, drove through Sacramento. Great drive, and I'm glad I'm here to see this wonderful office, huge office, a great space for getting out the vote for John and I know all of our other Republican candidates as well. So in case you guys weren't aware, I'm sure you are, but our friend Bill Bueller is our Sutter County Chair for John Cox, and then our Yuba County Chair is Stephen Heater. I don't know if you know who he is, but we can definitely connect you with him. But the main update from John Cox is that we're going to have a lot of signs, a lot of materials come in to this office and next week, actually, by the end of next week, and this office will be used as a distribution center for the surrounding counties. But you'll have plenty of materials at your disposal to use, to keep, to give away, to distribute, obviously. But we have a very active campaign. John is actually going to be making, we're going to be beginning towards the middle of next month, a bus tour around California, somewhat coordinated with the Yes on 6 repeal of the gas tax. They're also doing a bus tour, but we're going to be doing one in parallel with them. We're going to be visiting as many communities throughout the state as we can get to, and spread John's message and have John meet as many people as he can. And I just want to say thank you all for supporting all you do to help the Republican Party, but obviously help save our state and take our state back. So thank you for welcoming me here tonight. I'm glad I'm here. And just if I could say one more thing, it's John's slogan. It's right up there on that gray banner. Help us on the way for all of us. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we thought that was pretty appropriate to have our charging statement as you come in the door. That help is on the way. It's on the other side of that wall for if you guys didn't notice when you came in the door. So yes, very excited about John Cox and our other state candidates because, yeah, we're going to take our California back. Let's see, what do I got next? We sent out... Well, I sent out the agenda and I sent out the minutes from last month. And at last month meeting, we came up with kind of a game plan of how to tackle this lack of grand jury report situation that we have. And there's been a couple developments over the month that have transpired, and our two folks from the Grand Jury Association who were going to be here, I don't see in the room. So they were going to give us an update, but I'll tell you what I know, and then we'll all chime in. And I don't know how it's going to work with the microphone. We're going to have to pass it around because I'm not going to be the only person talking all night. We need input from everybody. So, okay. He says we have two mics, so we'll get those circulating around the room. So anyway, what has transpired since then is, I think at the last meeting, the thing that we did not know was we were being told that the grand jury report was not signed and therefore could not be released. What we found out since then, initially from one grand jury member, we had direct contact with one grand jury member who verified that the original report that was about 166 pages was signed by all the grand jurors. what wasn't signed was any of the altered versions of that report that were presented to them subsequent to that. So initially, because there was so much confusion, because we had the Grand Jury Association people telling us, well, the procedure is, it does, before it goes to the judge, before any parts of it get released to the directors, it's signed. And so that contradicted what we were being told, that it was given to the judge and some of the directors did receive their portions of the report. However, we were also being told it wasn't signed, so that wasn't matching up. So what we found out was it was in fact signed. We had contact with a second grand jury member who reaffirmed that same statement. They basically, their statements matched. This person also said that the original grand jury report was signed by all the grand jurors. So from that point, we're asking the question, why is it being withheld then? So it's signed, it belongs to the people, it was done by the people. They are the citizens' watchdog, and we are citizens, not subjects. So that's where we're at. That was the new information from the last time. Well, actually, there's a little bit more. We talked about doing like letter writing campaigns and phone calls and emails, and we had some elected officials actually step up and make some letters on behalf of Sutter County to the state. Thank you, State Attorney General, Mr. Becerra. Anyway, some letters were sent on behalf of, I believe, from the supervisors, and I believe Dan Flores drafted the letter and sent that on behalf of the supervisors, and then another letter was sent from James Gallagher. Oh, was it did you write a separate letter, Matt, or were you?
I wrote that one together.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so Dan and you all authored the letter, and it was on behalf of the supervisors, or was it just behalf of you two?
Just those two.
Okay, so apparently we only have two supervisors that,
Maybe I should have.
okay, that is pretty much, I think, the update that I was going to give, and I was going to rely on other people to give other segments of the update. So I'm going to pass the baton now to Matt Conant, and he can give his rendition of his portion of the update. Thank you.
So let me start at the beginning. So every year, the Board of Supervisors is given as a courtesy a preliminary draft of their section of the grand jury report. And we all have to sign off on it and say we don't distribute. It's usually done a couple days prior to the actual release. And we were given that, we had to sign it, we wouldn't distribute it, we wouldn't give it out. And then that was all that happened. Nothing else happened. We didn't get the whole report, so I only got the pages pertinent to the county. And I assume there's pertinent pages to the city. It could be school districts involved. We don't even know what other areas were looked at. Could be a lot of different things. Could be, probably not reclamation, they're usually tied in with the county, but there could be water districts, that kind of thing as well. They're also looked at. And I just like to say that I'm very concerned the fact that the grand jury report is our really only source of checks and balances that we have as independent citizens to make sure that the rules are being followed, the grand jury is investigating. And without a grand jury report, I'm really concerned about the fact that we didn't get it, that the citizen didn't get it. We paid good money. The citizen paid, well, $47,000 to fund it originally, then another $10,000 from the board voting to give for independent counsel to the jury because they were concerned that they couldn't work with the DA. There were some issues with the DA, county council, the state attorney general, and the judge. So they had to have outside counsel, so the board authorized an expenditure of another $10,000 for that in the middle of the summer. And I was assured, even though we didn't know what that $10,000 was for, really why they needed it, I was assured that we would all find out when the grand jury report came out, that's what we gave it for. But I hate to spend money when I don't know what it's for. And so that was another thing. So then, So then, after that, what came out, then we were directed by county council again later that we can absolutely not distribute any or talk about anything in the grand jury report. You notice I haven't said anything about it. And then the judge sent us all a letter saying we will not talk about it. So we can't talk about what was in the report. But my concern is that we as taxpayers need this set of checks and balances, and that we don't know what the problem is. As citizens, we don't know as the board what the problem is, why we didn't get the report, why it wasn't completed. We don't know. And so I was befuddled, as well as other board members. What do we do? We have no jurisdiction. We can't talk to them. We can't talk to a judge about it. We can't talk to anybody about what happened and why we weren't given the report, why the citizens weren't given a report. And so one of the persons from the grand jury advisory group came to us and said, well, you could contact the state attorney general's office. So Dan and I immediately sat forth to write a letter. We didn't want to be accusatory in the letter because we really don't know what happened. But we want the state attorney general's office, Mr. Becerra, to look at the process in Sutter County and see what happened and what fell apart. Obviously, something fell apart. Back up a step. My oldest brother is a water attorney and represents a lot of water districts throughout the state. And I was on the phone with him one day, and I was talking about this issue. And I said, so have you ever heard of anything like this happening? He said, no. He says, we work with grand juries investigating various water districts he's involved in every day. And they always file a report. We have never heard of a grand jury not serving the entire year and not filing a report, completing their task. So in my mind, there might be precedent somewhere, but I've never heard of anybody tell me where this has happened before. So Dan and I wrote the letter, and with county's approval in the contents of the letter, because we knew the letter would become public, so we couldn't make too many comments about any comments about what was in the grand jury report. And this, hopefully the state attorney general's office will investigate and see what is it. And James's letter was much more poignant and detailed than ours was, but we didn't want, county council didn't want, and the CEO didn't want us as board members to go too far on this letter. So we simply asked for a report to be done, asked to investigate if he thought it was appropriate, and to look into the process of why it failed. And we also talked about the facts that this is the only source of really checks and balances that are Sutter County out. So that was the extent of my knowledge of the content. Yeah, go ahead.
What gives the judge the authority to quash your freedom of speech?
Well,
Was that under threat?
the judge has that authority. The judge is the only one, and the grand jury is totally secret. So when that report is not final, it really shouldn't have even gone to the board. It was a courtesy that went to the board, because I think at that point everybody assumed that it was going to be final and we were just going to get it a few days early. I think that's where the assumption was. But the judge has the authority to make you not talk about things like that. And it even says in the code section of the grand jury, until the grand jury's report is out, that no one is to talk about the contents.
That brings up the question, if I recall, been on the grand jury. We read a report. They sent a draft to the judge. At which time he could, put remarks or whatever, that needs to be. It's sent back to the grand jury. They may modify it. They may say, yeah, judge is correct, and then they sign it. So why would they sign something before it's even reviewed by the judge.
See, I don't know any of that part. I just know what we got.
No, that's what I was taught down there, that it's reviewed. So to sign something, and then they say there's pages missing, what else is missing? Did he take out a paragraph and just, pop it up or change a word there, here or there? Nobody knows. And if it was given to you or whomever, it should have been given us also. So right there, that's a contradiction. And if he's telling you, you can't say anything about it, well, you handed it to us. You just stifled my speech. I've got concerns here. What do you mean I can't say anything? Can he do it to a citizen?
I think they can. The grand jury is supposed to be totally secret until the final report comes out.
The grand jury.
Mm-hmm.
I had to sign the document, confidentiality. Anybody they interview has to sign that. But to give something out that is supposedly been signed by the grand jury. And then
I don't know that it was signed by the grand jury because there was no signatures on it that I saw.
Yeah.
But we didn't have the whole report either, so I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Usually,
There's a lot of things we don't know, and that's part of the problem.
Matt, I've been on it twice, and I was also I wasn't the chair of that. And I find all this interesting because when we were on it 10 years ago, the DA was not. The DA was not involved in the grand jury in any way, shape, or form. In fact, he tried to be, and we did not allow it. Be an independent body, and so the DA isn't involved in this thing at all. It should only be
So it's my understanding that a grand jury wants legal advice, they go to three, or is it four sources? So you got DA, county council, the judge,
We went to the
the
judge.
state attorney general,
Only person.
and the fourth is, if the board so choose, which we did, to hire independent counsel.
And the only limitation we had on letting it out was, in those days, our county was really tight, and they didn't want to spend the money for us to put it in the newspaper, but we fought and got it in the newspaper. But that was our only limitations, but at that time, it was interesting. The DA wanted to be involved, and we told him he could absolutely, positively not have anything to do with it. So I think things have changed a lot. You were probably on it after I was. But, yeah, it's the citizens, and all we were told was what we...
And I agree, and I don't think it's right that we were told we can't talk about it, but I don't really want to go to jail.
Just a misdemeanor.
Stan's got some comment.
Stan Cleveland, Yuba City,
Stan had a question.
Yuba City Council member. Also was working with the president of the Sutter County Grand Juries Association, Rebecca Jennings, for this process. Tuesday night, unanimous vote to send a letter to the AG's office with the same question. We want you to get involved and find out what's going on, being very careful not to reveal anything that could legally be jeopardize the process. And I think at this time, the only one that can really answer some of these questions that are being asked is Rebecca Jennings, Becky, because she is the expert in our community on the grand jury process and stuff, and she's the only one that's really qualified as that president member. So some of these things are very confusing. It's hard not to mix and match procedures and policies. Because it is so complicated and confusing. And so, unfortunately, with her not here, it makes it difficult to answer the questions. And the one thing I think I do remember is that the draft report was released early, before it was supposed to be released, by a certain amount of days. There were other procedures that were done completely wrong. And I learned all this stuff through Rebecca. And there's other things that we cannot talk about. Some of these questions that are asked today, we have to say the letter has been sent, and then the next step is them, and then if they don't respond, we have to figure out what the next legal step is to do it, to move forward. But the city unanimously signed a letter to the AG's office on Tuesday night. So we're very, very concerned about this. Like you, I have a copy, and then I have a copy of the letter that says, hold it, can't do anything with it. So the confidentiality is there. If you really want questions, talk to Becky, see if she can send you a direction, and I think that'd be the most prudent way to get correct answers before all the hearsay, the questioning gets too far out of hand. And she'll be the best.
And Stan,
I've testified 7 times before a grand jury while I was in 8 years at the county. So I'm very familiar with the procedures, actually more than some, because after 7 times I had to learn a little bit more.
but one problem is nobody knows exactly what went on in the grand jury room, except for the grand jury members and maybe the judge. So
Right.
that's why Becky can't answer the questions either.
And that's all you can say, that's all we can talk about until the AG steps in and says, okay, now you can tell me what was said, because he's the one the law that says your confidentiality comes to me, and he can get the information directly from them.
And somebody asked me why that only Dan and I signed it, because we wanted to do a letter sooner, and we didn't want to wait for a board meeting and agendize it and then do the letter at that point. We wanted to just get it out so the two of us could do it individually and not with the whole board, and that's why we did it. And right, but we just, and we weren't sure we would get all the signatures either. We don't know. Yeah.
I've got a question. As a county supervisor, did the judge send a letter saying you are under a gag order not to speak about the grand jury report, or did he say, we don't want you speaking about it? Or how did that go down? Because the way I understand things here in the United States of America, where our First Amendment says Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, and on it goes. So that's the question I have, and as a county supervisor, can you dig into that and let us know what's going on?
I know what the letter said, not to comment on any topic in the grand jury report, period.
By what authority, though?
Well, because it says in the code section of the grand jury authority that they are not to talk about it until the grand jury report is final, and no citizenry is to talk about what's going on in it. So it's totally confidential and secret until that happens. Since it never happened, it can't become public.
No citizen is allowed to talk about it, huh? No. What a bunch of baloney.
Well, it's there to protect the innocent and the people that, yeah, it's, when people testify before a grand jury, they expect confidentiality. And if people could talk about it, then it wouldn't be confidential anymore.
So it's a secret deal.
Yeah.
Okay. Good deal.
Perhaps Thomas Jefferson was right. If a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a civilized society, expects what never was and what never will be. So you have this problem with uninformed citizens that often let a judge use policy to determine how you may address an issue. I agree that it should be sacred and confidential until after the report is published. But while there is a jury sitting, and they're acting as a jury, they should be confidential. Unfortunately, they're not always informed. That's the point I want to make.
They're not sitting anymore, are they?
Yeah, but we don't talk.
Yeah, no, a new grand jury has been impaneled, so that the grand jury from 2017, 2018 is no longer, they collectively resigned about 4 days prior to the end of their term, and the letter they submitted was they were resigning in protest, and we have, a copy of that letter is public. So last time we didn't know that either. That was hearsay. Well, now we've seen the letter signed by all the grand grand jury members, and they said in their own words they were resigning unanimously in protest. So there you have it. No, they weren't able to say why they were protesting or what they were protesting, because that's all the secret squirrel stuff. We can't talk about that. So, but yeah.
Well, you got to remember, though, that there are things that come up for the grand jury that are, there's a complaint sent to us, and if we got a complaint, we had to follow through. And if the complaint had no merit, then that's dropped, and that's nobody's business ever. I mean, I've got stuff that I threw away of tapes and stuff when I was on. It's nobody's business ever. The only thing that's anybody's business is that report. Who testified and what they had to testify. We shouldn't ever talk about it. I haven't ever talked about it. It's just something you don't do, because otherwise you could really hurt some people who really were not guilty of anything at all. But I don't understand why they didn't publish it. It's just astounding to me.
Well, I did want to share with the group here, if you hadn't had an opportunity to see the letter that James Gallagher drafted, because another one of the things we talked about at our game plan was reaching out to the media sources, and some media sources were in fact instigated after our meeting of last. The Sacramento Bee did a couple of stories, the Chico newspaper did a story, and so Gallagher raised some really good questions, and this is really how it should be presented, because the fact of the matter is there was a report, a lengthy report, and we never got to see it. So there were questions, regardless of whatever rumors are, what's in it is kind of irrelevant. The fact is there is a report. Well, I want to share with you his comments, because I think, like Matt was alluding to, it was really well worded and well presented. So if you hadn't had a chance to look at it, he wrote, "It is in the public's interest to ensure that there was no improper influence of the decision to not publish the report or make redactions. The Sutter County Grand Jury has published a report every year since 2001, and if a report is not published, the community deserves to know the circumstances that led to this decision and whether or not the legal process was followed accordingly." So he also included 4 questions that he wanted to be asked, and these were the questions he submitted. He said, why was the 2017-18 grand jury report not published? Obvious. Did the supervising judge require redactions, and if so, did the required redactions comply with Penal Code 929? What, if any, communications were made by outside parties to the grand jury prior to its decision to not publish the report, and were any of these communications unlawful or improper? Was the preliminary report distributed to affected Sutter County agencies pursuant to Penal Code 933-05F? If so, is it required for this preliminary report to be made available to the public? So you can see from his attorney background, he was pretty good at putting those questions together the way they should be presented in a legal way. And, we can all talk about the different things that we've heard and, had direct contact with the jurors to know. But, I mean, these are just basic questions that need to be answered, and that's kind of why we're keeping this in the forefront. We're keeping it out there so that, we don't forget about it, because that's generally what happens when there's something to be covered up or to divert your attention from. They kind of wait for everybody's attention to be subsided, and then it just goes away. They sweep it under the rug. So that's why it's staying at the top of the list, and that's why it is our main topic continually. So do I have more comments on this subject?
The thing that's most interesting to me is you've got every grand juror signed that. It was a unanimous signing. So it tells you right there, something's rotten in Denmark.
Agreed. Okay.
So
So if my name's Calvin, I'm from Nevada County, so I don't understand what's going on down here. But are you telling me that there's an issue that was significant enough that the grand jury took it on, signed a report, and who's holding it up? The judge? And the judge is an elected official, is that right? And is there supervisors that are working with the judge that support his decision? Is there any other elected officials that support the judge? And what positions are they in?
Our district attorney.
Oh, the district attorney, okay. So if the district attorney's elected, the judge is elected, is there anybody else? Did I leave out anybody else?
Our county council is involved, but she's not elected. She's appointed, and her contract is up for renewal.
Okay. So simply, you could go on the Secretary of State website, print out the proper reasons for a recall, and have 40 signatures on it, and go to a Board of Supervisors meeting and hold up, these signatures haven't been submitted, but we're interested in doing that unless the report is published within 10 days. For both, or they can resign. But the unfortunate part of resignation, sometimes the governor appoints the new person for the interim. Okay, thank
I don't know if you're passing that around for another comment or what, but I'd like to introduce to you Cal. I don't know your last name. I just know you as Cal. Calvin Clark. I did know that. I just had forgotten. Okay, Calvin Clark is here from Nevada County because Nevada County is, for two reasons, but Nevada County is interested in starting a chapter that we are a chapter of the California Impact Republicans. We chose a different name. That's why we call ourselves the Yuba Sutter Constitutional Republicans, because that is near and dear to our heart. We believe in the Constitution and restoring its integrity, and so we felt it important to name ourselves that. So we are a chapter of the California Impact Republicans, and Nevada County is looking at starting a chapter, and I believe Cal is with a group of folks that have kind of reached out and contacted us, and so they're kind of in getting the groundwork going to start another chapter. And then I believe we have another chapter maybe up in Colusa that might happen too, maybe? We're looking at it. A little bit. We're looking into it. So, but then I think Cal wanted to share some comments, and I'll get, we can use this time now because we're done. I think we might be done. Are we done with our comments on the grand jury to move on the agenda, or does anybody have anything else they'd like to add? No? Okay. I'm going to give Cal an opportunity to make some comments. He wanted to share some information with our group.
Well, as you know, a lot of the Tea Parties have been collapsing around California, and the Republicans, central committees and things up in Nevada County, it's also known as Berkeley in the foothills. Have you ever been there? And while we're up there, it seems that there's a very small, older group of people that controlled everything. They controlled the Tea Party, the State of Jefferson movement, the Women's Republican, the caucus, the Central Committee. But anyway, you guys all knew that. I'm helping with the State of Jefferson. I don't know if you guys get any of their e-blasts or emails from the State of Jefferson. Do you guys do that? I would recommend you stay in tune with your ear on the rail, so when the train's coming, you might not get ran over, because it's coming. There's a report that is called a writ of mandamus that was submitted to the Supreme Court, and that will be published, I think, what did you read, Bill? It was at September 24th? Yeah, the 24th of September, and there will be some kind of answer, because this Judge Kimberly Mueller, the Eastern Federal District Court down in Sacramento, would not push. She initially allowed for this to be going forward with the 3-judge panel back in May of 2017. May 8th is when we filed. And she heard it, and somebody talked to in her ear, maybe Alex Padilla, we won't say his name. Then it got put on hold for whatever reason, and we've tried a couple more times, and so finally with an amendment and a few things, I highly recommend you look at the resources on soj51.org and read the case. If you want to know California history, that's an amazing, anybody here read it? Yes. Isn't it interesting? It's a significant, I had no idea all this the Chinese were involved. They didn't want them to get elected. There's a lot of it, and we're still at 120 state legislatures since 1874. So, and the population grew from under 250,000, now we're at 40 million. That's one senator for 1 million people. SOJ51.org. Also, anybody learn about the Yes on 6? Yeah, everybody? Most everybody's got that? I would have brought some signs. It's sweeping across California. Highly recommend, and we all know why. The number $700, over $700 a year, the average family. Now that's considering the ones in San Francisco and the ones in the foothills. So, and if you want signs, see Bill. I'll bring some down and he can pass them out. I think that's about it. Did you guys have any questions for me?
Yeah, on the gas tax, if it gets repealed, on the gas tax, if it gets repealed, it's 12 cents a gallon, right? Somewhere in there.
Well, it's got an escalation clause in there. So it'll be a total of $2, right around $2 by 2021. So we're talking about 2 years away. You're going to be paying $2 of tax.
Yes, not to mention the DMV fees. Now, I have a lot of vehicles. I'll probably get hit with at least $2,000 a year already, just on the DMV fees.
Yeah. The other interesting thing about it is that it's not earmarked to pay for roads. And as we've seen, the California Management of Finances, I don't know what they call that, a czar? A bait and switch, yeah. Yeah, so that's a real strange problem we have there. And there's a better alternative, and that is reduce the size of government. Isn't that really what we're thinking about? More responsibility and less government. And thank you, guys. If you have any questions, see me after.
Thank you, Cal. Appreciate that update. Seems to be a lot of groups that we kind of have common goals with, so we kind of cross over into different areas, but always good to keep apprised of all these various things going on. So next, what do I have? Oh, I wanted to give just a quick update on what we got going on here at the headquarters. I was hoping more of the people would be here that helped bring this all together, because I wanted to recognize them. But there are some here. We have Joe Carwell, Randy, Larry, Tom, Jenny and Adrian in the back, Doris, yes, little Doris, of course, Jason. We're very heavily involved in getting this whole space that you're in done. When we got here, it was just, all open and really ugly floors and very dirty, and so we had to paint the whole space and clean up the floors and put up some partitions and decorate and put up curtains and, yes, partitions. Temporary partitions, and so we kind of feel pretty proud of our accomplishment here, and we're just very excited to start using the space. So we have some bookings. I'm doing the thing where I have too many things on my screen. It drives my husband crazy. So our first campaign fundraiser for a local candidate is, there we go, is September 7th. And it's, I think on the agenda we hadn't confirmed, so I left it blank, but I knew we were going to be filling it with Mark Boomgarden. So now you can know that our first local candidate fundraising event will be for Mark Boomgarden on September 7th. And basically, what we decided to do is every Friday night, kind of all through September and October, each Friday night will be an event here. And we had a good showing of people that wanted to come and train to work the events, but we're going to need some relief in that area because we went through one function already and we had a lot of fun and everybody showed up and we had a lot of help, but we're going to be doing these every Friday night, and I'm pretty sure that we can't be relying on the same core group of people. So if we can get more people to kind of step up and help us run these events and help just contribute to the events, that'll really help out, so we don't have the same people all the time. So Mark Boomgarden, September 7th. The next Friday, John Missler, his sign over there, he's running a write-in campaign. We are going to be promoting him as much as we can because it's a tall mountain to climb, but we feel it's attainable, and we feel very positive about the campaign, and we're going to be hitting the ground and walking doors for him and making contact either in person or phone or email, personal contact with every voter in his district to get that accomplished, and we're feeling very positive about that. So the main goal is to make sure everybody knows how to spell his name. John Missler, M-I-S-T-L-E-R. And we were supposed to work on a little jingle, so we'll have to check back with that. I'm sure we'll come up with something. Okay, so then we also have a function scheduled for Val Dillon. Now, she is not a registered Republican, so although she will be having an event in this space, she is being endorsed and promoted by the Yuba Sutter Political Spotlight. So that event we've partnered with the Yuba Sutter Political Spotlight for the candidates that don't have that R in back of their name, because these are local offices, they're nonpartisan, and every once in a while there's someone who, they're the right person for the job, but they just don't have the R in back of their name. We don't fault them for that. Then we have a big event that we are going to be helping with helping the Sutter County Republican Central Committee with. It's being held at the fairgrounds on September 24th, and it's the Judge Bailey dinner. There's a number of other speakers that are going to be at that event, and Liz is not here. Elaine is our other member who's at both groups. Did you want to give us an update or information on that event since you're here? No? No?
Except there's going to be a lot of other political candidates there. In addition, Dan Flores is going to be doing Richard.
Dan Flores will be the MC of that event. Yes, I heard that. I've been seeing the emails flying around that there is a lot of, you guys have a good lineup gathering for that event. So I think it's going to be really, really well received. It is on Monday night, so that'll be a little tough. It's the Judge Bailey dinner, and it's going to be at the fairgrounds. So it's basically a campaign fundraiser specifically for him, but we've got a lot of other speakers coming to attend the event as well. That is September 24th. Yeah, it's a Monday night, September 24th. And the other events we have scheduled here, following that, on the 28th, that's the next Friday after that, it's Brandon Barnes, also being promoted by the Yuba Sutter Political Spotlight, because although he wanted to, he was advised not to change his political party right when he was running for office. It was kind of one of those things where you don't really pay attention that much to your political affiliation until you decide one day to run for office and it makes a difference. So he will be here September 28th for his fundraiser, and then the last two locals that we have on schedule right now are Dave Shaw, October 5th, and Mike Ziegemeyer, October 12th. and they both are Republicans, so. Other than that, I pretty much put all the other events on your agenda, and that's pretty much it. Do we have, oh wait, there was one other thing I didn't write down. I think I'm forgetting. Can you remind me, Bill? Was there something else? Elaine has something to say. She- Okay.
Speak publicly. Okay, there's one reason why government employees do not put party R or D. Now, I worked for the government for years. Some years ago, one of the best people we had promoted high up, he was removed because he had an R to his name. So a lot of people, when they become a higher position, they do not put D or R. And yet there are people around that I would support no matter what they put there, because I know what they do. And it really kind of irks me that people think that if they're in the D party or the R party, they have to automatically endorse without really finding out what the candidate is about. So think about that a lot. Don't depend only on whether it's a D or an R. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. Oh, hold on, more comments.
And we have a perfect example on our sheriff candidates. I mean, a perfect example on the sheriff candidates, on who's qualified and who's not. But you have one with an R that's not qualified, and one that's declined to state that is more than qualified and should be, well, I believe will be our next sheriff. So yeah, that's a perfect example. Thank you for saying that. That's very good. Well said.
My daughter got a promotion. Governor Brown requested how she was registered before it was approved high up. This is the stuff that goes on. So you need to know.
Wow. You know, it doesn't surprise me, but I did not know that. I'm glad to know that, because, you always file these things away for future, but yeah, I wasn't aware of that. So that is good to know. But that is the whole purpose why we felt the need to do a partnership type of arrangement with Yuba Sutter Political Spotlight. So that is case in point. Bill Beeler, you didn't get your normal time for your director's report. Do you have items you want to discuss? We kind of skipped over that.
No, not really. Everything's been said. In Nevada County, C.J. Bryant, Carol Bryant's working fiercely, along with Calvin Clark and David Morgan out of Placer County, I believe, contacted me, and I sent his contact information on to Carol, to C.J., and he helped run a couple of supervisor campaigns up there. So hopefully we'll have a Nevada County CIR chapter here soon. And yeah, I'm working on Calusa, but we're still trying to find 15 Republicans over here. And it's even worse in Shorty Schaup's office. And by the way, Shorty Schaup should be here after the debate on the 17th, September 17th, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. We invited him over here afterwards for some drinks and party, and we are having an after the party here on Saturday, after the booze and barbecues, and we pay that outrageous $50 a entry or 60 at the gate, and come over here for $10 and get a free drink and game. We don't have a game. We'll be teaching. There's no money changing hands on the gaming table. All chips are free. If you look pitiful enough, you'll get plenty. Other than that, that's about it. Although I see Dave Shaw's here, and we have vetted him as a Yuba Sutter Political Spotlight, and I think we ought to let him get up and say a few words.
on up, Dave.
Well, thank you, guys. Is it on? There we go. Thank you, guys, for holding this meeting and allowing me to speak for a couple of minutes tonight. I've met a lot of you already. Matt, great seeing you here tonight. Again, I'm Dave Shaw. I'm a local business owner. I have a financial group. I'm an accountant, tax accountant, wealth management. I know finance. I'm running for city council. Just want to lend a hand and continue volunteering for this great town and continue to do what we can do to make it better. So I would appreciate any and all support. I'll be around. You guys can talk to me later. By all means, don't call me Mr. Shaw. Just call me Dave. All right? Thank you guys so much.
And be sure to listen to KMYC this weekend. We cut his ad last night, his radio ad last night, and we had quite a bit of fun doing that, and he cut a really good ad. I've got to have him approve it first, but I think we'll get that done tonight, baby. Thank you.
Could I add something about the radio?
Yes.
All right. And I'll try and tune in. Nevada County, we have a hard time getting the signal, but sometimes we can. If
You
we're
listen to it on your phone, too.
Isn't that great? We can go on the phone, we can look it up and go live streaming, right?
Roger that.
And that's exactly my lead-in. There is 3 radio shows for the state of Jefferson. There's one up north at 9 a.m., and that's always really good. And you go on the website and you'll find that. But there's also one we started over in Auburn on K-High, and that's at 10 a.m. And this week is interesting because Travis Allen will be a guest he recently ran for governor, and he's a strong Republican with conservative values who has thrown his support behind John Cox for governor against the November runoff of Gavin Newsom. Democrat entrepreneur, that Gavin Newsom guy. I don't know if he's onto poo-poo or also featured is Steve Franks, a writer, publisher of the California Political Review. Anybody read that? I'm really not that familiar. I see a few hands. It's very good. And he will be running for chairperson of the California Republican Party, which I'm sure you're all aware, and as the current chairman, because Jim Brulte will be stepping down. So just wanted to make that announcement.
What day was your radio show?
That is, thank you for saying that, Sunday mornings. Yeah, Sunday mornings, 9 o'clock Reading, and then 9 o'clock and then 10 o'clock over in Auburn. Thank you.
Do you live stream those, or can you get it on the internet?
Yeah, on the internet, and I do it on my phone and just turn it on, and it gets interrupted with phone calls once in a while.
Yeah. Okay, so Saturdays at 9 and 10?
9 and 10. Yeah.
Can you access both those from that SOJ website, or how do you?
I believe there's a link on both the SOJ51.org and also the Nevada County State of Jefferson Patriots Nevada County website.
Okay.
If you guys need that, just talk to Becky. There she is.
Ah, yes, Becky.
I would like to say one thing.
Okay. Hold on, you need a mic.
We do have an active committee in Sutter and Yuba County for Jefferson. I'm the chair. We have one meeting a month, generally speaking. Next Monday coming up is the monthly meeting, so it's the 4th Monday of every month at the Church of Glad Tidings, starting at 6:30. And I try very hard to get you out of there by 8.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so on Sunday, we're going to listen to the radio at 9 and 10, the SOJ thing, and then
Or go to church.
I go Saturday night, so. Okay, and then from 1 to 3 on Sunday, you're going to listen to the Yuba Sutter Political Spotlight. It's at 1410 a.m. Yes, we're after church. And it's also 104.3 locally, and then you can live stream it at kmycradio.com, and then you can catch it after it gets uploaded to YouTube at One Eye Blind Media channel. Okay.
Who's our guest this weekend?
Oh, yes, Mark Boomgarden will be our guest this weekend. So he'll be there for the first, probably the first 30 minutes, usually what we do, give him 30 minutes. We just cut commercials for Mark Boomgarden and Dave Shaw, so you'll be hearing those on our radio show this weekend, and we'll be playing those every Sunday. But they turned out really good. You put them to music, I like that. I like what you did. Yes. So, yeah, tune into the radio show because we always give you, and anything that we find out between now and Sunday about grand jury and all the other exciting things in Sutter County, we'll get you updated on the radio show. So definitely tune in. Did you want to make you had a conversation with Aaron Park today. Did you want to give any updates on that, or?
No, that was, no.
Okay. And, yes, and I did want to mention, I was trying to pull up with the date that Steve Frank will be here at our headquarters. Bill, do you have the date offhand, or?
October 7th.
October 7th? I think I put it in my, you know what, I think I have it on my phone. I'm pretty sure you're right, it's October 7th because it was a Sunday that he's going to be here. And he'll be here from 3 to 5 at the headquarters. Let me verify that. Yep, October 7th. Okay, so if you want to come hear what Stephen Frank has to say, it'll be October 7th here at the headquarters from 3 to 5. He is running for the chair of the GOP, so we'll get a chance to hear what he has to say. Any other comments before we close out the meeting? One in the back.
I guess I will do just a little bit on what I had to talk with Aaron Park about. What's going on is right now, the California Impact Republicans, as you know it, is the Constitutional Republicans up here. We are one chapter away from actually getting chartered and sending delegates to the GOP. So what's going on is Jim Brulte has endorsed us and stood behind us through this whole thing. So he's stepping down. So what our big push is right now with Nevada County also is to help them, is we can get another charter going before Jim Brulte steps down. We can be part of the California GOP and have delegates sent down there. So that's really the big push right now, and to get this group active. So what we're going to be trying to do is if they need any help up there, we're going to be looking for volunteers to go help them recruit whatever we need to do to help them out in Nevada County. So we may be spending a lot of time there. We may be, helping them hold events down here. Whatever it takes, we want to get you guys vested and get that charter going so that we can get our foot in the door at the California GOP. Because here's the deal is, they really don't want more delegates, I don't believe. And the problem is we've already got a shoe-in, so we need to make this happen now while we got the promise of making it happen before Brulte steps down. So it's really important for us all to be really active right now before he ends up stepping down, so we can get that charter and get our delegates in there before he steps down. Now, it still could happen after the fact, and it probably will, but like I say, if we've got somebody in there who's willing to back us, who's stood up for us, who has donated money to get us started, which Jim Brulte has, we need to get in there while the getting's good. So we really need to put our work boots on, get them laced up, and get this done before he gets out of office. So we're going to be asking for a lot of time, and you know what? I know time is money, but the money's not as big a deal right now as the time to put in to get this done. So if you guys need any help up there in Nevada County, I'm willing to make the drive any day, night, whatever, to get it done. I'm sure I can drag a few people along. So if you guys need anything, now's the time to push this through. So that's the big push, folks, is really getting that done to where we have our own delegates that we can send to the GOP and get our message heard. Because you've been, Tom, I know, and is Elaine still here now? But I know that, she's been, we've all been to these things. And if we don't have delegates, and you don't have that D on your little placard you wear around the whole time, it doesn't mean anything. But you got a D and you got some proxy votes, guess what? They start paying attention, folks. So we have a chance to actually be heard and have a voice and make a difference. So just food for thought. It's going to be a big push over the next couple of months, but I believe we can get it done. And that was my big talk with Aaron Park today, was about Jim Brulte, about the guys who are running to take his spot. I don't care about the guys who are running to take his spot. We need to get in where the getting's good. Because one of them isn't really too keen on the idea of the impact Republicans having delegates. Imagine that. So, we got one more chapter to actually get vetted and get them going, and Nevada County stepped up to the plate to do that. So with that, we got it, and we just need to get them vested and get them going. So, I mean, we're really, really close right now, so we just got to kick it through the uprights. I believe we can do it. I don't see it being a big deal. It's just, you know, whenever you talk about lacing up your work boots, that sends a lot of people scurrying away. But with this place, with what we did here, with this Republican headquarters, and the crew we have right now, we're not ones to shy away from a little bit of work. So we got a really good crew, so I think we may be helping out in Nevada County some if we can. That's all I got.
I have one question, maybe you can clarify. In light of all the judicial misconduct that we see around the country, for instance, in the Bundy trial, and on and on and on it goes, okay? I'm curious about this Bailey. Is he, do you have any information on him? Because I'm totally in the dark on this guy.
He's got you can look at him on the website or Facebook. You don't have Facebook, but he's got a website. And I looked at all the state Republican candidates, and for some strange reason, I really like all the state Republican candidates this time around. I haven't found, the guy I haven't looked at I haven't looked at actually at all. Controller, I think it's the one running for controller. That's the only one I haven't looked at, but the two that were here, Mark Musier and Konstantinos Roditis. Oh, okay, then it's not controller. I can't remember, there's a one state office, maybe it was treasurer. Okay, that's what it was treasurer. Okay, controller, yes, Roditis. He's the guy. He is very he's very constitutional, very knowledgeable, has a good firm foundation in it. And Judge Bailey, from what I could read, and you never know until you kind of, I think when you get one-on-one in person, you get a better feel for if they're really being authentic and true, and that's the feeling I got, certainly from Roditis, and Mark, not to the same extent, but yes, Mark as well. So I think once you have a one-on-one meeting, that'll probably be clearer for you, but from what I saw on his website, he's very much aligned with the similar American values that we have.
What office is he running for?
Oh, that Judge Bailey, that's what we were talking about. Yeah, he's running for a state superior court judge. Yeah. No, Judge Bailey is running for, what?
Attorney General.
I thought it was a state's, I'm totally not right then. Then I misspoke. But I have been to his website and read what he had to say. And I think that we'll be pleased with what we see. So, yeah. Do we have any other comments?
I got an idea. Just a quick idea, maybe to go ahead and, social media has taken off in this country big time, and people are burned out with after 6 seconds. So I would suggest an idea of putting together on that state level, because there's quite a disconnect between, especially the younger generations, and of what's going on in the state. But we're finding that there's a lot more conservative 25 to 35-year-olds that have already burned themselves out with electronic gadgets and being on the computer too long. So they do some social media that's real quick. But having a list, and the mailers that go out, well, here's what I'm talking about, is here's the person for governor, John Cox. Here's the person for attorney general, Mr. Bailey, Judge Bailey. here's the person, and have this endorsement, but call the radio stations and call in, you can say whatever you want. But from the radio station perspective, you're supposed to host, some radio stations are real particular, they want you to host both sides of the, host both sides of the equation or the election. And we don't always want to host both sides, but when you call in, you can certainly say, hey, you know, I'm one of these guys that I'm a local, and if we use the word local a lot of times, that really chimes in the ears of the young people. They like to hear local. I'm a local person, we want local reasoning, we want common sense, and here's some people that I like that are for that. And that rings through that younger group. And so I think putting together, perhaps in our group, we're going to put together a list, as I'm gleaning this information before the election, of the 4 or 5 or 6 of the top state offices. And then you can chime in on the local offices as well. But certainly the governor thing, you know, Travis, you know, had a lot of ideas, Travis Allen, about fixing all of California. But we have a state legislature that's a huge problem. And so we really want more than just one good guy going up there to battle. We want to put, and also there's kind of a push across all the counties in Jefferson to try and say, look, let's maybe remove the worst county supervisor through, or threaten them with a recall if they're supporting, you know, the environmental extremism of taking down the Klamath dams, you know, and not allowing people to rebuild back where they've just had fires in Santa Rosa. There's been a lot of hearings on that recently, and they're saying, oh, the Indian, this could be a possible habitat. This could be a possible Indian burial ground. This could be a possible this. Well, by the time you pay the fees for evaluations and EIR reports, you're stuck. You're not building, and your insurance didn't cover you to go through all those fees and permits. So we need common sense back in the state. Thanks.
Yeah, that reminded me, I was going to give an update too on the rally we attended on Monday, but I didn't want to keep people too late. Did you go to that rally? Yeah. So the Stop the Water Grab rally at the Capitol was a huge showing. We did a Facebook Live. Jason did a Facebook Live while we were there, and we videoed when Bill got the whole thing, and he's got that. I'll let him tell about that. But the Facebook Live that we did, we pretty much did just the local guy candidates to us, and Tom McClintock. We like him, so we made sure we got him on film. But Gallagher and Nielsen. And so, but it was huge. It was very well attended. It was good that we went. But anyway, like he was saying about the environmentalists and stuff, the whole reason, well, one of the main reasons why this is kind of come to a head was that SB1 was such a disaster, and Tim Donnelly was trying to get the message out that it was a bad idea, you don't want to support this, but it just wasn't in time or wasn't enough just because it's California, and pretty much we get overran by the special interests and the environmentalists. So we got the really bad deal, SB1, and it's one of those things where what it starts out is not at all what resembles what you get in the end. So it basically turned out to be pretty much the opposite of what it was initially started for, was to build reservoirs and to build water, to have more water storage in California, and that didn't happen. What it resulted in was the dam, 4 dams being removed from the Klamath. So because in the bill where it was written, they put the wording in there, fish barriers, and guess what a dam is? It's a fish barrier. So 4 dams are slated for removal, and pretty much the lion's share of the money went to all the environmental type groups, and then more recently a teeny tiny little bit was trickled out for the site's reservoir, just so that they could have something to show the public before they went for their second grab at water, which is what we're facing now. So that's why the big showing. Matt Conant was there. I saw you at the rally, and if you want to add some comments, this will be our final topic, and then we'll try to get it wrapped up. Tom, are you ready to say something, or?
Sorry.
You said we didn't get what we thought we were gonna get.
His
Kind
wife's
of like
off.
a Muslim that said he's gonna get 80 virgins when he goes to heaven. Yeah. But it was an 80-year-old virgin.
His mic's off.
We did have a very good turnout at the Sacramento Water. A lot of Farm Bureau people there.
That mic's off.
From even San Francisco. This thing is on or not? Is it on?
No, it's off. Push the button up.
There you go. I guess it's on now. Okay, a lot of people from San Francisco. Even the Bay Area is worried about losing their water rights. We're all from the same pond, I guess, so to speak. It's all, it goes down to the delta if you let it go, but don't hold it. And there's just, it's, right now, it's mostly they're aiming at the south. But don't think they're gonna stop there. They're gonna come up here and get our water, they're gonna get our riparian water, they're gonna get our dams, and even our privately owned dams, like, South Centerville, Kemper West. All that water is in jeopardy, because if the state determines, the State Water Resources Control Board decides what they're gonna do, they've got a lot of power. And I'll just say one more thing. Probably shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So John Cox is a fantastic candidate. And if you thought Jerry Brown was bad, Gavin Newsom will make Jerry Brown look like a John Berger. That's some food for thought. Think about that.
It's important that we get John Cox elected. He has a veto pen, if nothing else, and he can reappoint the board members on the water board too. I mean, he can take his scythe and go through all these idiots that try and put more regulations, fees, taxes, and statutes on us.
So just remember that the State Water Resources Control Board is controlled by basically 3 people. And Felicia and Marcus are all appointed bureaucrats by the governor. And they determine what's going to happen. They pretty much said it. And it was kind of sad, there was a Sites Reservoir meeting the same day at the same time. So even though we had, I think we had several thousand people there, maybe more. But think how many we could have gotten if we'd have had the non-Sites Reservoir Committee meeting going on at the same time. So, thank you.
And they postponed their hearing that they had the next day because they didn't want to address it because there was so much lively action, which means that they're trying to get us to go away.
Got news, we're not going away. Okay, Bill, did you want to make any final comments?
Move to close the meeting.
Second.
All right, then that makes it official. Meeting is now adjourned.
Good meeting.